Welcome to today's webinar brought to you by Redgate, NetApp Instacluster, and Revify. I'm Stephen Fegg, Director of Database Trends and Applications in Unisphere Research. I will be your host for today's broadcast. Our presentation today is a favorite of mine, the role of the DBA in 2026, changes, challenges, and opportunities. Before we begin, I want to explain how you can be a part of this broadcast. There will be a question and answer session. If you have a question during the presentation, just type it into the question box provided and click on the submit button. We're going to try to get to as many questions as possible later. Now, to introduce our speakers for today, we are very excited to have with us Mike Jewett, DBA at United Wholesale Mortgage, presenting for Redgate. Anil Inamdar, Director at NetApp Instacluster, and Sanjay Agarwal, CEO and co-founder at Revify. So each speaker today is going to deliver a brief presentation, and then we're going to dive into a group discussion. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the event over to our first speaker to kick things off. Welcome to the broadcast, Mike.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Happy to be here. So, little bit of information about me. So, obviously, my name is Mike Jewett. I have been a DBA here at United Wholesale Mortgage a little over 5 years, but I've been in IT and focusing on databases now for about 10 years. Most of my time has been focused in Microsoft SQL Server, but the last 6 months or so has really been a focus into learning as much as I can about Postgres as well, starting to understand multiple database platforms and how they can offer solutions. We are focused a lot in the day-to-day operations of what system performance and keeping all of our databases as up and as secure as it can be. But when I have some downtime or some free space, I focus a lot on any type of tuning and performance we can do with automation, especially PowerShell. We've developed a handful of scripts that work for us there. I am here as an ambassador for the Redgate company, as well as a customer of their products. And if you had to know a fun fact about me, a couple of years ago, me and my wife got to travel to Europe to go see a Taylor Swift concert. If you ever have the opportunity, highly recommend it. Um, so, a little bit about who United Wholesale Mortgage is, the company that I work for. We are a wholesale mortgage lender, and not only a wholesale mortgage lender, the number one wholesale mortgage lender in the country. Have been for about 11 years consecutive. And for anybody who doesn't know what a wholesale mortgage lender is, they work with brokers, not directly with borrowers, yourself or myself, and they work to try to help borrowers get the best the best mortgage that they can, give them as much power by being kind of a middleman for them. Since 2022, we've also been the number one overall mortgage lender, so not just wholesale, but in the retail space as well. Um, we are located in Pontiac, Michigan. Everybody here in the company is on site 5 days a week. About 9,000 people at our company, and over 1,800 of them, a little under 2,000, are directly in our IT department. Across the country, broker shops are everywhere, from single person operations working out of their office, home office, all the way up to major broker shops that can span across multiple states. But we work with about 11,000 different broker shops across the country. And in 2025 alone, we originated $163 billion worth of mortgages. So, as I am here on behalf of Redgate, we have a handful of slides to talk about who they are as a company and kind of what they provide for us. I have been working directly with Redgate now for about 5 years. I've been an ambassador for them for the last 3 or so. They are one of the most respected software product teams out there for databases and SQL Server especially, but their reach has grown into Oracle and Postgres and Mongo, the same as it has for everybody in the database space. Some of their biggest tools include Redgate Flyway for automating and managing deployments to databases, SQL Toolbelt and their Toolbelt Essentials for any day-to-day development work, And we'll get into the next slide, which is my favorite tool with them, which is Redgate Monitor, being a single pane of glass monitoring tool. But to summarize, Redgate here provides solutions for database professionals from monitoring to deployment, development, and even into the test data management space. We go to the next slide. So again, we talked about Redgate Monitor, or what I will talk about here in Redgate Monitor, is the tool I use every day. It's up on one of my screens at all times, no matter where I am. It is a single pane of glass to everything that we have going on, especially in our estate. For databases, they work with not only Microsoft SQL but Postgres, and their reach keeps expanding. It also helps because we have an estate that is hybrid, as most places are, so a mix of on-prem and in the cloud, and everything shows up all on one screen. It's really easy to work with. It's really easy to see everything all in one space, as well as to be able to customize monitors and alerts for us to meet exactly the the needs we have to keep our systems up as efficiently as we can. Um, it's also been a huge step forward for us to help with product team empowerment. So we have all of our development teams getting access into Redgate Monitor so they can be a part of working on the databases with us. And it isn't this big wall between development and administration. So that has been a huge step forward for us. I can't speak highly enough about the Redgate Monitor tool and everything that we've worked with over the past few years. And finally, some information that's very pertinent, especially to today's talk with security and AI and in the cloud space. Redgate recently published the State of the Database Landscape report. It's a mouthful. Um, for this year, and it highlights on some of those key topics that we're talking about. What does a hybrid cloud environment look like? AI is growing, and how is everybody starting to adapt and work with these new technologies? Um, Everything we see here on the screen is kind of just some key points and highlights. But if you want to, the full report is available online and free. There's a QR code here in the corner of the slide that you can scan and download. Or you can just search in Google or whatever your browser may be, State of the Database Landscape 2026, and it's available for you to download, to take a read, and kind of listen to and hear what other experts in the field are talking about to the same level. So I thank everybody for taking the time to let me talk, and now I will hand it over to Anil.
All right, thanks, Mike. So hello, everyone. My name is Anil Inamdar, and I think the DBA role is at an inflection point. I think shaped by automation, AI, cloud. So we're going to talk about that. I want to start with a bit of a philosophy. So like almost every job has like two layers. Okay, there's a process layer and there's a judgment layer. The process layer you can automate. Okay, the judgment layer you cannot. For example, I think everybody probably has heard that AI can scan scan images with this cancer scanning images better than human beings. Okay, I think, but that doesn't mean that all the jobs for radiologists are gone. Okay, I think what has happened is it has moved to a higher judgment level. Okay, I think the radiologists still have to make sure that they inform the patient, their families, provide emotional support, next steps, like check out their history, things like that. So yeah, one thing process you can automate, the judgment you cannot, at least till now. Whenever we talk about automation and AI, there's always a fear of this dystopia. Hey, it's going to replace everything, but that's not always true. And we have seen the story before. I think in 1970, when ATMs came along, everybody said that hey, jobs of the tailors will be replaced, but that didn't happen. In fact, between 1980 and 2010, almost 500,000 new jobs were added. And the reason was that ATMs made branches cheaper to run. So more branches opened. Tellers shifted from counting cash to building relationships. So the jobs didn't disappear; they transformed, and the same thing will happen with the DBAs. That's my kind of a prediction. All right, so there are these three forces that are shaping database administration, DBA jobs. One is automation. Okay, routine work is disappearing. Okay, the process layer is almost gone, and if you're living in that in that area, okay, your job is at risk. But if you move that and move to the judgment layer, okay, you still have it's a huge opportunity. The next force is the cloud native databases. The infrastructure is abstracted away, so the shift here is from an operator to an architect. The third major force is the AI driven optimization. So machines are making recommendations. So the decision layer is augmented. It's not automated. You cannot automate the decision layers completely, at least at this time. In the future, I don't know what will happen, but we still need human beings to make rational decisions and provide judgment. So those are the three kind of major forces that are shaping how the DBA's role will evolve. This is a quick slide. I think you probably have, many of you might have already seen this slide in some way, in some fashion. But I'm comparing the role of DBA, say 5 to 6 years ago to today. So in terms of performance tuning, 5 years ago, a lot of things were manual query analysis, index tweaking. In 2026, we are using AI-assisted tuning mechanisms. Infrastructure, cloud infrastructure or on-prem server management. Now we have hybrid and multi-cloud. Incident, mostly reactive. Now we are moving towards proactive. Platform expertise. Most DBAs focused on like single platform, Oracle or SQL Server, MySQL, Postgres. But now they call it polyglot fluency. You should know relational, NoSQL, SQL, vector DBs, time series, you name it. Team position, it was mostly siloed. Okay, you have a separate team, shared resource, and now you are kind of embedding yourselves in engineering team and AI teams and platform teams. Primary value, process execution and system uptime. Now you're moving into this judgment, governance, strategic architecture. Sorry, yeah. So the automation paradox. So more automation does not mean fewer problems. It often means that you're dealing with harder ones. For example, for audit and govern autonomous decisions, okay, when machines configure your systems, who is accountable for it? Okay, so that's one big paradox we need to deal with. Diagnose why, not just what. AI can flag performance degradation, but only an experienced DBA can trace the root cause, and the root cause, at least till now, is not automated. Catch edge exceptions. Basically, automation can handle a lot of common use cases, but human handles everything else. Okay, example is like a pilot, like at 30,000 feet, you can run on autopilot, but when you're taking off, you're landing or turbulence, okay, the pilot plays a critical role. Same thing will happen for DBAs. Then ensure compliance without human touch. So regulators, they don't accept that, hey, I have automated everything, and if you ask the system, no, somebody has to kind of own the governance, and DBAs can play a role there. Next. Sorry. So the scope of DBA is expanding, and the governance is where the DBA's role can have the most untapped potential, I would say. Data access, encryption, audit trails, and zero trust architecture. All right, so multi-cloud is an operational reality. I think we are always working with many databases now. It's not a future state. It's a new normal. There was a time, as I discussed before, DBAs were focused only on one database, but now, on an average, they focus on 3 to 5 databases. The slide says 3 3 to 5 databases per enterprise. It should be per DBA. Enterprises probably have more than 20 plus different databases. So when that happens, who maintains data consistency, latency and replication, cost optimization? Different databases have different cost structures. So how do you make sure that you're optimizing cost? Unified monitoring, instead of multiple dashboards, can we have one dashboard? So again, the DBA's role is changing, and they're playing a critical role in managing multi-cloud and hybrid environments. So AI is creating a new job category, and the DBAs are very well positioned to own that. It's like so AI is a big thing now, and all AI runs on data, and data needs DBA. So there are a few expectations, and there are two columns I have. In one first column, I say what AI systems demand from data. Okay, and we have already seen this, and we already know this probably. We need clean and structured data, reliable delivery, governance compliant data, vector DB optimized data. And where can DBAs help? They can help with pipeline integrity, anomaly detection, performance at inference scale. So we have tested the data with for training. The training data works great, but when at the inference level, can we still have the performance? AI governance ownership. All right, so this slide gives DBAs a suggested picture where they can go from here. I think they can take several paths. They can take an architect path, like they can become data platform architect. The governance path, we talked about it already. They can take this DevOps, data ops path, and then they can take this AI infrastructure path. They can focus on vector databases, feature stores, machine learning operations, streaming data, things like that. So this is the kind of an actionable slide, and there are suggestions for organization to invest, and there are suggestions for DBAs to what they can advocate for. So for organizations and IT leaders, they should invest in cloud native database training, security and compliance, scripting, automation literacy, observability. DBAs must advocate for seat at the architecture table, time for skill development, cross-functional exposure, recognition as a strategic partner. Now, you might have known NetApp as a storage company, but they recently acquired a company called InstaCluster, which I was part of. And InstaCluster is an open source data platform company. We provide database technologies to store, stream, analyze, search, and orchestrate data. And if you want to offload DBAs, we can take care of that. And again, we provide three kinds of services: consulting, which I lead, support 24/7 support, and platform. I'm going to skip this slide. So this is my final slide, and my take is here that the DBA role isn't being automated away; it's being elevated. Okay, as I said, there are always two parts. There is a process part, and there is a judgment part. The ceiling, the floor is rising. At the same time, the ceiling is also rising. So more automation leads to better judgment. And so I would say that the DBA role is being automated, isn't been automated away, is being elevated. Thank you so much. With that, I will pass it to Sanjay.
Thank you, Anil. I want to first thank you, Anil, from a different perspective. I really appreciate you giving our Revify pitch deck as part of your story as well. I love the way you brought it out. I'm Sanjay. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Revify. Prior to this, I was an ex-co-founder of ThoughtSpot. And for folks, like ThoughtSpot is a leader in the Gartner's Magic Quadrant for BI, and it was the first one to bring the whole notion of search into BI. Now, coming back, like prior to that, my own background, I spent more than a decade at Microsoft Research in the databases group and at Google. And at Microsoft, our team, we built the world's first self-tuning technologies about 30 years ago. And the idea was very close to all the DBAs here. And the idea at that time was that how do you automate the very complex task of performance optimization for the infrastructure out of the box. And then when it was about how do you index selection, how do you partitions, materialize view, everything. But the goal is take a complex problem like this and bring it up as to masses. And that to me was somewhat, we can call it as a foray of AI, or we can call it machine learning or combinatorial or mathematics, everything. But the goal is take a hard task and make it, give a shape to it. So with that in mind, let me sort of give a little bit idea about Revify as well. So we started Revify about 4 years ago, and our mission was very simple. That how do you empower folks like DBAs, database engineers, everybody to deliver the right data at the right time and at the right spend to enterprises. And once you take that undertaking, now we can talk about multitude of things, whether it is performance optimization, spend optimization, data quality, all of this comes into purview. But our main thing which it took was, how do you take this and rationalize it so that any data team now can be empowered to achieve this goal, which means that how can teams now get the best outcome, whether it's maximizing the ROI of your data investment or whether it is saving teams the time and also money. And our initial focus was around large enterprises and also on the cloud data warehouses, because that's where we saw the world was moving to. And now we see more and more of this as well. From a outcome perspective, like if we look at Revify's playing ground, we primarily work with very large Fortune 500 companies, Global 2000, and the intent here is, again, automate the complex task of how do you maximize the ROI of your data stack. Now moving to the next one. So this is a good way to think of a value prop, and this is one piece of what Revify brings to the table. And I want to sort of bring it out because when we look at this problem, we don't want to call it just a spend optimization. It's about asking a question that how do we look at various aspects of what does it take to maximize ROI and split it, and then ask a question, how much can automation bring to the table? So for us, when we started, we said, let's focus on the cloud data warehouses. And the value prop here is, let's say you're using one of these. Then the idea is that most likely you are already seeing these factors. One of them could be blown budget. Other could be poor data quality. Or you could see on your small data teams trying to scale to the needs of the entire organization. And they're spending a lot of time firefighting because the data is growing, the spend is growing, how do you manage it? And the outcome which we sought was, can you now help, for example, can you help them reduce the spend? Like, can you cut it by, let's say, 30 to 70%? And then moreover, can you help increase the operational efficiency by 10x? Because this is the whole power of automation. A lot of us do things which are very repetitive and things which are grunt work, and the goal is, can you hand it over to an AI or ML or whichever way we call it? And the other part which was very crucial for us is that we didn't want to sort of frame it by saying, oh, it requires a lot of setup to do, because that is again the antithesis. The goal is, can you hit the ground running with minimum time? Like, can you just spend a few minutes and let the system do its work? And can it do 90-95% of work for you? And when it needs help, it will loop you back in. So it's really about getting the power of the domain knowledge of the folks, as well as what automation and everything can bring to the table. So I'm going to take a pause and share a couple of stories, because I know this is an audience which is extremely relevant. So you'll find this very, very close to heart. So in a Fortune 500 company, what we saw was that when they were going up for the renewal of their budget, they found that in one of the cloud data warehouses, they were exceeding it by 80%, and the line was going up and up. And the first question was, how do you even rationalize a budget at this point? Now, if you have a budget problem, you can assume that everything else now will be very critical. How much data is coming in, everything now comes into picture and everything gets questioned. And the first question was, how can you flatten it and can you reduce it? And again, not a surprise, because the way the OLTP systems work and people brought this knowledge to the board and started using that didn't apply at all when your pricing model is consumption based, and anyone can now spin any compute. So in another one, again a Fortune 500 customer, but nothing to do with the first one, very different warehouses, and we see a lot of folks talking about, this is better than the other one. But the reality is that in their case, we saw about an increase in 2 to 3x within a period of 6 months. And again, same thing which we see is database folks there in the middle, because the data team just wanted, everybody who was using data wanted the largest compute. And they wanted their things to run the fastest, and that is not the recipe for managing things the right way, because it leads to a very different problem. And this is what we are now observe across the board. That was with data, and now with AI, the story is now even much more fascinating. And I would say that's a great opportunity for everybody here on the call, the DBAs and everyone who is involved with the data stack. So let me switch to the next slide. The question is how. So this sort of, I want to give a feel of what it really means. So if you think at Revify, we said we are going to put it on 4 pillars. It's not just about spend. It's really about doing things the right way. Part of it is building a data observability platform and asking a question, can you automate it? I know Anil referred to it, pipeline monitoring, alerting, anomalous behavior. Everything is, can it be automated? Can you use your knowledge to do things the right in a way which is much more 10x faster and better? The second part is around FinOps pieces, which is how do we understand the architecture? What does this environment really use? Where is it spending time which should not be? What are the anti-patterns here? And again, bringing it up and converting from monitoring all the way to actionability. That's really second key here. And the third piece is around like asking a question, can you now take this stack and make it self-driving? Like one example could be, let's take a running example, could be in Snowflake. It could be, can you take your warehouses and say, can you just automate its running? Why do we need to spend so much time figuring out what's the right size of the warehouse at the given point in time is? Can the system do it? So the main thing with Revify is that we took a look at this holistically and said, end to end, this is the goal. Let's go ahead and leverage the best out there, whether it's algorithms, whether it's machine learning, whether it's AI, Gen AI. These are all utilities. The purpose is, how to use the data the right way and in a sustainable manner. And this is really, in some ways, encapsulates it. And now what we are seeing is not just about data. It's really about AI's footprint on data, data's footprint on AI, and working that together as well. With this in mind, I was just going to quickly bring out, what makes it possible under the hood. This is really a peek into what the architecture stack looks like. It's not about cloud data warehouses. It's about where the data is going, where it's coming from, where it's going to BI system, it's coming from files, OSTPs, what are the pipelines, everything included. But the main goal is to say it's all today under the hood. We are running more than 50 million machine learning models, time series based, predicting any anomalous behavior. And that is really a super, super important piece, because if we are asked as like database folks, whether it's DBAs or whatever we will look at, to monitor and go for each and every aspect, it's not going to happen. It has to be automated. And from then, some of these pieces are very important where we need a lot of human intervention. And that's where the team should be spending a lot of time. Now coming to the main theme, to me, like this topic always has been very close to the heart. We have seen the evolution. Decades ago, it was all about OLTP systems managing it, and the posture now is very, very proactive. Not just looking at one environment, looking cross environment, looking at cross capability, doing it in a way where it is fiscally responsible. Governance, compliance, everything which the team talked about makes perfect sense, but doing it at that scale, as enormity, when you have real-time data, when you have all the different things coming in, is really, really very, very important. And now with this demand of AI into data, this is even much more, I would say, critical this way. And this is where our mantra was. This is where we help continuous tuning, continuous optimization, because these are the things you can offload. When it comes down to going ahead and asking question, how do you best optimize a query? It's not just about running it faster with the same semantics. It's asking, are you getting the right business reasons out of that? What does it take? And that is where the power of each of us comes into picture, and that's really a large piece. So I'm going to just leave this here more from a technology standpoint. To me, like anyone who says that LLMs are just going away, it's not going to happen. It's an amazing power. So if there's one thing which I would say is augmenting the skill is being very comfortable, whether it's Claude, whether it is ChatGPT, Gemini, make your pick, make all of them, and start embedding in what we do every day. Because to me, it's simple. Like all DBAs are really the architects for their data, and LLMs are really a strong allies and not an adversary. So the more you work with them, the more we'll differentiate and make a big dent in how this thing works out. With this, I will just hand it back to Stephen, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Sanjay. Okay, it is time for our group discussion. Mike, I'm going to let you be our leadoff hitter here. Pressure's on. So, since the title of this roundtable is on the changing role of the DBA, I thought we'd pick apart that first. Mike, in your opinion, what is the single biggest shift in the DBA role over the past few years, and what do you think will define the role by the end of this year? I know it's a broad question.
It is. I think I spent a little bit of time looking at this and thinking, is it the shift to the hybrid environment, kind of splitting and making a platform that works for each situation dependent rather than just having a one size fits all. I really think it's still in AI. The biggest piece is, for the longest time, we kind of acted as these guardians of the data. And it's because we spent the time learning and understanding who and what connected to the database and all the little background pieces. And nowadays, I can go on my phone and have Gemini or ChatGPT explain to me like proper indexing on a database and do it talking like a pirate. So everybody has the access to do so. And so it kind of opens up this, we aren't the only ones who know this stuff anymore. We've just focused so much on the best practices of it. I think by the end of this year, the real defining moment of a DBA is being able to use these same tools to increase our skills. I think it's whether you're becoming better at performance tuning, optimization, automation, or if you're actually kind of branching out into deploy pipelines and starting to learn what connects into the database, kind of a little more full stack in that space. But that's the DBA that at the end of the year is the one everyone wants on their team.
Understood. And it seems like if you're a DBA and you're using AI and automation to assist with these tasks, you're going to know if it's doing the right thing or the wrong thing. So that kind of puts you in an empowering position to kind of be a steward or a guide of that. Versus if it were me, a non-DBA, I would just have to take it for granted at the end of the day. Anil, what do you think of this?
So I think the biggest shift, as I discussed in my presentation, it's kind of a mindset shift. Okay, you're moving from a kind of a process to judgment layer. So instead of kind of focusing on fixing a database at 3 a.m, how can you become an architect of data reliability at scale? Okay, so I think I would say that, and again, in terms of tactical skills, okay, cross-platform fluency is critical now. So you need to make sure that you are not focused only on one database, but across multiple databases, multiple geographies, multiple cloud, on-prem, SQL, NoSQL, vector, all those things, and make sure that the DBAs are instead of doing this routine job, they are sitting at the intersection of the platform teams and product teams and governance and security and AI operations. So I think that is the biggest shift, I would say, that DBAs need to bring in to succeed in this job.
Gotcha. No playing, no being off on your own island anymore.
Yes, definitely not.
Sanjay, what's your take on this?
Yeah, so for me, we have seen the evolution of industry it's very different now in the last 3 months versus, maybe even like a year ago, 2 years ago. And to stay relevant, I strongly believe that DBAs have to play a very key role in the organization's AI adoption story. Whatever it means for them. It could be, some people would claim it governance, other could claim it even semantics. And I'll give you a very interesting example. Like this whole notion that people say, I have this text string, I'm natural language, I want to get SQL out of it. And everybody believes that they got it right. But the reality is that there are a lot of side effects of this. One of them, perhaps in a business, many times they won't even know what they are getting. Is it even the right answer? Like, you went for apples and you're getting potatoes back kind of a model. That's a different problem. But how do you help that? Really, it's really, whatever is the goal, achieve that is really a key piece to this. How do you become really the subject matter expert? But let's look at the other side of it. Let's say everybody is writing their own SQL, and they are writing this all the time. and suddenly you have very interesting way of how your platform is going to behave. Like there's not going to be benefits of caching, there's going to be very unpredictable behavior. How do you even budget for this? How, when people come back and say I typed, I got nothing back, I got something wrong, how are you in a position to answer this like instantly? And how do you empower them to answer this? So to me, a very important shift is that DBAs have to really become the place where they become sort of the face of how the data is getting used by businesses, and understand that, stay on top, and then empower them also to do stuff. And in the meantime, help them answer these key questions. Is that, is it even the right thing? Is it even sustainable? And that's really a conduit between your business and your CFO, because if that's not there, then many things fell flat very, very quickly.
That's a
But
great
more or
point.
less, yeah, that's how I
Yeah.
will catch up. There are a lot of things we can say, but I'll start with this one, Stephen.
Yeah. Well, AI relies on data, and DBAs are directly tied to it. They're the guardians. So that is a fantastic point, Sanjay. I'm going to let you go first on our next question here. And here it is. Automation and AI are now embedded across infrastructure, DevOps, and database monitoring tools. Where are you seeing meaningful operational impact, and where is it still more promise than reality nowadays?
So I would say like anything which you can like look at it programmatically and say, you know what, I can break it down into small chunks and I can take care of it. You should assume very good chance is going to be automated. If not today, tomorrow. It's given. Like one example which we did, and I like this is one of the key things which we believe very strongly is that your environment, how do you make it self-driving and self-tuning? And this is well before like last year, like or 2 years. This was when we started the company. And one of the pieces there was for Snowflake as an example. We said, how do you take these virtual warehouses and make them completely resized, clustering, or whatever is needed, so that it aligns with what you want out of this, so it's your overall spend is sustainable. To me, that's an area where resource management optimization, which is as is, you want the same thing out, that is clear path to automation. Like it has to be, it has already been done at an infra layer, it will continue to happen at data layer, and it will continue to go upstream as well. On the other side, and both upstream actually and downstream, so I will say meaningful impact, anything where you transition, monitoring is given, like it's a solved problem now, whichever we look at it or not, automated anomaly detection at scale, all of these things are there, are happening, will continue to do so. It's about actionability, that how much you can bake it into the system and make it self-healing, and specifically where you know what the actions are. If it's a checklist model, just do it. There's no point in harping on what who can do it and blah blah blah, right? So to me, like that's a strong area where we are seeing a meaningful impact. I would say the promise and delivery part is where it involves a complex workflow. Anil referred to as judgment pieces, where it involves an interplay. And one example there is, even in that's a citing this NLP case, that even if you do this, like, are you even getting the right answer? It's going to take time. Some people go and say semantic layer, oh, I got it right. And if you're doing query optimization, first question to ask is, are you even getting the same answers? Then why are you doing it? Why not Snowflake or Databricks? They should be doing it, not us as well. Like, but on the other hand, when you need to change something, why? And that is where we see a very interesting gap here, which is amazing as technologies to bridge and fill in.
Absolutely. Challenges create opportunities, definitely. Mike, as a DBA, what are your thoughts on this? What are you seeing?
Yeah. So I would say I kind of two examples. First is a little more personal, but it's so much focus in automating our day-to-day processes. We've had a handful of opportunities and data or tasks we do every day. They end up kind of getting mind numbing. And so writing out these automated processes, I've been able to learn a lot more about automation and scripting using AI. Um, Having these tools with me to walk through doing the work myself, but having that kind of background check and understanding and learning new topics and skills has been huge. I would say in our monitoring space, being able, Sanjay talked a little bit about that anomaly detection. Having systems where we get a spike in CPU overnight, but it's a normal process and it's something I'm okay with, but I used to get called every night for it. Now Redgate Monitor has a tool that uses a little bit of machine learning in dynamic thresholds, where once it determines, hey, every night for an hour, CPU spikes at that point. I don't need to call you during that time. This is a known process. We're okay with that. When it happens outside of those known windows, now actually alert me, and we start getting less and less of those kind of fluff alerts, things that I'm waking up to just snooze an alarm and go back to bed. But now when it calls me, I know this is real.
That's a great example.
Yeah, and then I would say if there was anything that's kind of having that shortfall, it's AI and becoming context aware. Looking at data as just data is one thing, but understanding how your applications interact with that data, where it can recommend an index, but is that really going to solve your problem? But create 6 more. Having that, and Anil also talked about that judgment layer of being the person that kind of gives that thumbs up or thumbs down, but utilizing those tools.
Yeah, no, I think that'll continue to be more important, and that's a good segue. Anil, what are you seeing as having the most impact, and any areas you're still seeing kind of falling a little short?
I think Sanjay and Mike have covered a lot of ground there. So I think I will just summarize that the real impact, I think we are seeing this in, say, automated backups and automated failover, index recommendation, anomaly alerting, and things like that. We have seen this. Okay, I think the where we still need promise, we still like it's just a promise and not a reality, is like a fully autonomous root cause analysis. Yes, AI can flag that this query is taking some time or this failed, but what is the root cause? So that is still taking the AI-driven schema optimization is another one. Cross-platform cost governance, when you use multiple environments, how do you manage cost? And to extend that, how do you administer multi-vendor and legacy hybrid environments together with AI? So all these things, I mean, these are complex challenges, and AI is helping, but it will be a combination of kind of understanding the current infrastructure, the legacy infrastructure, the new tools, and that judgment layer I talked about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And as far as hybrid legacy environments, getting them to work with AI, that's one of the biggies right now as far as challenges. That's a whole can of corn, and it's not just like you can throw it in an LLM. That is not the approach. I'm going to let you lead off.
So I'm going to sort of, I really loved the way you brought it up, was around like automated root cause analysis and all. And I know I couldn't resist saying this. And as a technologist, I feel that if we can envision our infra as a large knowledge graph, many of them, like truly, that is really the case. And how much you can go deep and wide onto that, it's about reasoning on that, right, as well. And how much can you get into that? Let's all follow separately with you after this.
Yeah, definitely. We can definitely. I think what I've realized is that AI can solve a problem quick. Okay, and once that problem is solved, you realize there are 7 more additional layers of problems that we haven't looked at. Okay, so that is the root cause analysis I was talking about. But again, as you said, let's take this offline. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. All right. So, Anil, I'm going to let you kick off our next question. In hybrid and multi-cloud environments, how can DBAs maintain visibility, control performance, and cost discipline as systems grow more distributed?
All right. So I think we kind of I kind of alluded to some of the ideas, but so imagine like you're managing multiple databases in different environments, on-prem and cloud and multi-cloud and different geographies, different types of databases, NoSQL and SQL, so you cannot effectively manage that, okay, with like 15 or 20 different dashboards. So you need to introduce a kind of a unified observability layer. Okay, I think we have used Datadog and Grafana and Prometheus, OpenTelemetry. I think Mike, I think the Redgate monitor might be able to do that. I don't know, but something that I'm going to check. But yeah, so definitely introduce unified observability layer. Then treat infrastructure as code using tools like Terraform. Okay, I mean, and this will enforce consistency and configurational symmetry across multiple environments. Is not easy, but at least we can start there. And like, how do we provide cost visibility in government? These are all challenges that we need to address when we are working with multi-cloud environments.
Absolutely, and you can't really change or improve what you can't measure. So
Yes, yes.
visibility is absolutely essential. Sanjay, where do you land on this question? What do you see as best approaches and strategies here?
I think that the first thing is, I think absolutely as Anil said, it has to, you need to have a unified view. Like otherwise, what are you reasoning about, right? That's really what is the context graph which we are talking about, like the knowledge graph of how your data is coming in, where it's going, who is using it, what's the purpose, everything in between, right? The more you fill, the better it is. But then the next thing which I believe is very important is like, let's take any example, like to any large enterprises, they will have all of this. Like they will have Databricks, they will have Snowflake, they will have all sorts of OLTP systems and pipelines and all. What is very important is like, I believe is that a DBA should now have a very good point of view and build strong expertise in all of them. It may sound very irrational, it may sound like asking too much, but the reality is that what we are seeing now is teams are like it's getting smaller and smaller, like leaner, and that's where we are at. Which means that more we understand their architecture, the simplest thing is, can you get certification and all of this? Like in some ways, it gives you confidence that I can answer this, right, as well. That is very key here. Is building that strong expertise, the domain knowledge of what is necessary, and that's being comfortable in answering those tough questions is going to be very important in this direction, because this is the multi-cloud, multi-warehouse is the reality. The other piece which is very important is not to just think of one fragment of the or silo of this environment. It's really to look at a comprehensive view. And again, like I can share a lot of examples, but more recently we're looking at a customer, and there was one job in the environment which was, let's say, costing them $100,000 to run. That's a job where it's okay to spend $10,000 or $1,000 to optimize the heck out of it. But if that job was a dollar wise, you don't want to spend like proportionate time. It makes no sense. But understanding what's the ROI of this and working backwards, how do you efficiently use your time when you have everything coming in, is really going to be very key. Which means not just think about expertise, it's about translating and automated data ops, automated FinOps, whatever tools you need, whatever expertise you need to build it fast, build it quick, and be that face of this is really what I would suggest. And more so in this hybrid multi-cloud.
Get some quick wins in, and you're tying you're boosting your image, your cred. Absolutely. All right, Mike, where do you land on this as a DBA? How do you deal with
Yep.
these challenges?
So, and Neil mentioned it, and I'm sure we're going to talk offline, but this is a T-ball for Redgate and Redgate Monitor specifically. In my day-to-day life, our databases live across on-prem. We're a full hybrid model. So I have a couple hundred instances that live on premises. I have a couple hundred more that live up in Azure. We're expanding our space into GCP. And it's not just SQL Server. We're starting to get into Postgres and Mongo or Cosmos in the Azure space. And yeah, that's so hard to try to find something that can give you an eye on all of them. But Redgate Monitor has been able to. So far, it can connect to every single one of those. I think on my instance, in my single pane of glass dashboard, I have 600 plus instances, and new ones pop up every day as developers are working and building tools. And so I immediately start getting insights. We start to see performance against those databases. It has been a big breath of relief that there's not just something hiding out there with performance issues that we didn't even know about until it's too late. I would say the biggest thing, the shift in cost discipline for us, is we're managing kind of a mix of both PaaS solutions and IaaS solutions, either infrastructure or platform, and not treating them the same, but wanting to be able to run our platform solutions maybe a little hotter than I'm comfortable running an infrastructure. 50% CPU utilization for some of my big on-premises SQL servers, but I want that to be 75 to 80% for a platform. Because if I'm sitting at 50% on an Azure platform server, I'm just burning 50% of my money. It's not doing anything, but yet I've reserved it. And so it's trying to remember that everything needs to be monitored the same way, but not kind of architected the same way.
Understood. No, that's fantastic. I'm going to let you lead off on our next question, Mike. As database teams collaborate more closely with application and platform and AI teams, what operating model do you think works best, without sacrificing things like governance and reliability?
Yeah. So here at United Wholesale or UWM, we've been in the agile kind of operating model. So we've worked back and forth in kind of those sprints of a couple weeks at a time, and we interact very closely with some of the development teams as they start pushing new changes, and we're kind of there through their processes. Obviously, infrastructure is a little harder in agile because without a database, you can't start developing the database. Um, so we've gone through some growing pains, but we've kind of adopted it in a really good working way. The biggest piece about governance and security, and we deal with that as a mortgage company that consistently deals with um, sensitive data every day, is not treating them kind of like the boogeyman in IT, but getting them on the ground floor with us. You start developing new products or tools, and making sure that our governance and our security teams are with us from day one. So this isn't we get lost in a project we think is going to work, and then we get hit with a bunch of red tape. But we've worked in those boundaries and those constraints the entire time. It just kind of stops getting those pain points right at the last minute.
When you build it in from the start, it makes life a lot easier. Anil, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think the one thing we should definitely, in terms of operating model, we should definitely move away from the centralized shared DBA resources, and kind of embed this into, easier said than done, but and try to embed them into product or platform teams. I think also a lot of teams are using self-service tools now, and we don't want DBAs to become bottlenecks. So one of the ideas is to kind of create a kind of a golden path. DBAs define standards and guardrails and policies and things like that, and the teams can perform within those boundaries. Okay, I think so that's another thing, another operating model I'm thinking of. Obviously, infrastructure is big for DBAs, so treat infrastructure as application code. The application has this peer reviews and CI/CD pipelines for like last 20 years. We can start introducing that to the DBA role as well. Again, and the governance should be built into the developer, into that developer psyche, and it should not be like a gate at the end. Again, as I said, if we cannot embed DBAs into product teams or platform teams immediately, at least have cross-functional sync on a periodic basis, DBAs and platform teams and security teams and governance teams and AI teams. And I think we need to kind of start, forget the old operating model where DBAs are isolated, sitting somewhere, and we only talk to them when there's an issue. Okay, they should become a part. They should become part of the architecture team.
That makes sense. Sanjay, what do you think?
Yeah, so it's very interesting. I think what we have seen is based on the company profile and its political structure, its answer can vary dramatically. But sort of I'll break it down into two different umbrellas. One is the soft skill, and the other is really what quantifiable, like metrics. So as an example, like what we see is if you tell somebody, hey, your job is costing us $500,000, like it's a great conversation, because now you can say, is it worth having it? If you tell your job is running slow, it's not a good conversation at all, because the person will immediately come back, what, I need it. Moment you have quantified that, then the question would be, is your CFO okay with it? Like, are you getting enough business, right? So to me, like what has worked very well is taking those conversations and sort of removing the subjectivity out of this. It's not about you and me. It's really about our shared goal. And if you have to use it well, we need to quantify and ask a question. If it is worth it, you should do it. If it's not worth it, take a look, or get an approval from your leader. So this is one area where I have seen a pretty huge difference, is that if you create a shared responsibility and accountability, but quantifying the key metrics on which you are having a conversation, having a transparency there is very important. Anything which says you are not doing the right thing to businesses or anybody, it does not go very well. Whether it's AI, BI, doesn't matter. It's the same thing. So what we are seeing is design in is very important. Like start building policies and all. Always you'll have exceptions, but start gravitating towards where your norm should be. And but then you want to also have a trust but verify model, which means bake it in after that, which is that is it doing what it's supposed to do? If not, again, call it out. The goal is not to fight it out. The goal is a collaboration, right? Really, and this is really it goes down to. So one example is even like data access, right? The question is who should have data access? You can have all the principles, which you should always have from day one. On the other hand, you need to also monitor who is accessing the data when it is sensitive. And any anomalous pattern, you should be aware. Because then you can ask a question, is it certain? So this is what I sort of trying to say. I didn't see any silver bullet here. I just see a good combination of like a soft skills and how to have a detached, objective conversation, and then creating very shared goals and having automation work towards that is been. And again, I want to sort of decouple, what the others have has already talked about, but this is one
Understood.
area which definitely.
No, that makes sense. And ultimately, we all know blamestorming does not help. So, open communication and collaboration, and yeah, viewing things objectively, even if it's hard sometimes. People can get tribal, of course. Sanjay, I'm
Yeah,
going to
so
let you kick off our next question here. And I'm going to jump ahead to our last one because I want to make sure we have time. We have a few different questions that have come in from attendees, and I know we're starting to get late in the game here. But the question is, and I think this is an important one that many DBAs and even DBA managers listening today, and we have a big audience today, will want to hear. For DBAs who want to stay relevant and grow their careers, what skills or mindset shifts should they prioritize right now?
So I would say in a very fun way, I would say use Revify. I mean, let's talk to like forget the product. Just have a chat. We'd love to share our what we have seen so far. But that's completely decoupled. To me, like in today's day and age, the most important thing is be very strongly aligned with your AI story in the company and how you can become sort of the data part of that and bridge that gap. So it requires them to truly very comfortable with the shell, whatever like Claude or pick your favorite, but don't wait for that. It is extremely powerful and it's a huge differentiator. Like whatever we do, and use this and become the enabler for your organization. And the only way you can do is by being yourself a strong expert in that. Make your personal goal how to increase your AI adoption in your org, and whatever it needs to be done, it will automatically come and in that and bridge it. So this is
Yeah,
only if I have to say one thing, this is it. Like
yeah, no,
be that
that's a good
bridge.
point. Well, making yourself important is about figuring out what other people want and being the person that can deliver that. So I think that's smart advice, frankly. Mike, what are your thoughts on this? You're a DBA
Yeah.
yourself, so
Yes.
how do you view this subject?
Yeah. So I mean, one of the biggest things, and Sanjay kind of talks about it a little bit, is using that AI, using those tools, um, helping them or helping you grow by asking it questions, kind of going back and forth. As a DBA, one of the biggest things that's helped me is getting into the communities of the database spaces. SQL Server has an amazing Slack channel where content creators and bloggers and some of the biggest names in SQL Server space are in there constantly talking with each other, and people can ask questions, and big brainstorming sessions kind of just happen. Being able to watch some people explain their problems, and then the moment it happens to us, we're not just learning from the get go. I've had the chance to kind of go, oh no, I saw that in a Slack message. Let's see what they did, and then use that in our own troubleshooting and problem solving. Um, and then kind of the final piece is using the cloud to your benefit. Um, Being able to spin up a small test database to put some sample data in and run a query against it just to see what it looks like, and not have to worry about you know killing resources on your own laptop or trying to manage your own home lab servers just to do test work, is massive. And so taking every advantage you can to self grow and learn on the side is huge.
Absolutely. Anil, what are your thoughts on this? What are your recommendations?
Okay, so to stay relevant, yeah, correct, yeah, okay. So there are some table stake technologies that they should be fluent in, like a cloud platform, AWS, Azure, GCP, infrastructure as a code, okay, Terraform, and there are a few other tools, observability tools like Datadog and Redget Monitor, and things like that. Okay, and there are some emerging technology they should be relevant. Okay, like vector database is becoming big. Okay, every DBAs or aspiring DBA should know about vector databases, understanding machine learning pipelines and AI pipelines and AI governance frameworks. Um, Going to kind of the mindset change. Stop stop thinking yourself as a kind of a database or system custodian, and think yourself as a data platform product owner, okay, who's responsible for not only database but also for reliability, for cost, for developer experience, and things like that. And I think to end, I would say that make yourself heard in architectural conversation, architectural discussions, and not just kind of incident bridges when there is an issue. So that's my recommendation.
Yeah, and data architect is certainly a path you can take
Yeah,
from being a DBA. Absolutely.
yeah.
All right, I want to make sure we hit up some of our attendee questions. Just about everyone's staying with us beyond the bell, the school bell, so to speak. So let's do a quick, one or two lightning rounds here. I'd like to get your thoughts on some of these. So one of the first questions we had come in from our attendees was, should we consider renaming our roles in organization from database centric to data centric? Does the database and the role still make sense when DB admin is not the central focus anymore? And Mike, I got to ask you this first. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I saw this one. I've been sitting on it for a little bit, trying to think. I don't hate the idea. Of truly everything is about the data. I speak personally, we're a mortgage company. Everything is finances. We live and breathe off of the data that comes in and out. But I still kind of like the idea of the database name. I still think even though it is data centric and focused, the database or the data has to live somewhere.
Yeah.
And that component is always going to be around. So even though we really care so much more about the data, I like the database name. DBA sounds
Yeah.
better than DA.
I'll throw down my cards.
That's
I think it should stay around, and I think it will. But Anil, what are your thoughts on this? Where do you vote? Which side are
Yeah,
you on?
I think I was leaning towards kind of, yes, taking the database out, because database is just one part of the whole data landscape. But I'm trying to figure out, okay, what better word could be. Okay, I think so. I mean, I don't have an answer, but I'm leaning towards yes. Let's take the database out of it, because we are dealing with data, and data is more than database. Okay, it encompasses several other things, including governance and access and things like that. So yes, but I don't have a replacement answer, but I'm leaning towards kind of,
Gotcha,
yes,
gotcha.
leaning toward data.
All right, well, we'll go to Sanjay. Sanjay, do you have a replacement answer for us? Well, what are your
No,
thoughts to begin with?
in fact, I would say this is something we have dabbled with ourselves, because in Verify, what we did was we also have very overlapping functionalities between an AI DBA and AI data engineer and AI performance engineer. And it's actually very interesting because all these disciplines are sort of moving into another one. Like anyone who is a DBA role is actually looking to how to get data in. And that's now classically was traditionally a data engineer. So I would say, I think the name changing, I wish I could tell you that I have an opinion on that and I have a better one. The answer is no. But to me, that the role itself is morphing into more like an architect. And
Yeah.
that is my end-to-end business problem. And what does it take? And that's what is up for grabs. If you take that role, doesn't matter what we call them, but
Yeah,
that's where
I
my
know what you
opinion is
mean.
at.
Well, if I think of something, I'll let you know so we can come on. You can come on the next roundtable webinar. The role of whatever the new thing is, and we can educate everyone together. All right, I think it is time to wrap up. But before we do, I want to give each of you the opportunity to deliver quick final remarks. If there's one thing you would like our wonderful audience today to walk away keeping in mind front and center, what would that be? Mike, we'll start with you.
yeah. Man, if I have one thing, it's It's just continuing to learn and evolve. Nothing about this role and what I do every day is going to stop changing, especially in IT. Everything that's coming forward looks really cool, and I'm excited to keep trying and trying more stuff. I think you should be as well, especially if you're in the database space. Um, but yeah, keep educating yourself within it would be huge.
I think that's great advice. There's no, oh, I've learned enough in this
Hmm.
space ever. Anil,
So I would say with this whole AI promise, AI threat, I don't think the DBA role will be replaced or automated away. Okay, it will be elevated. Okay, people will be using more databases, more data, more different types of databases, different types of infrastructure. So the role will be elevated. It won't be replaced. So that's my two cents.
all right, absolutely. And Sanjay,
Yeah, I would say to me it's an opportunity really to continue to upskill and up level. And if one person's one use case in AI today can take away 10% of your company's budget within 2 weeks, you know that there's a great opportunity there as well. Just figuring out how to be that one and be the right lead, and building that strong ownership mindset, but also building that learning piece and converting it into is really the key here. So I am a technologist at heart. So I would say it's a great time to be in the data space. So enjoy and do much more than what you can imagine.
I think those are wise words. And after all, changes, challenges, and opportunities was in the title of this roundtable. So, with that, if we did not get to your question, I apologize. I will share all of the questions that were asked with our speakers today, so they can follow up with you as appropriate. I would like to give them a huge thank you for coming on and sharing their insights and expertise. Once again, folks, Mike Jewett, DBA at United Wholesale Mortgage, presenting for Redgate. Anil Inamdar, Director, NetApp Instacluster, and Sanjay Agrawal, CEO and co-founder of Revify. So if you in attendance would like to review this presentation or share it with a colleague, you can use the same exact URL that you used for today's live event. This will be archived and you will receive an email notification once the archive is posted. And as always, if you would like a PDF of the deck, you can go to the handout section once that is live. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, and we hope to see you again soon.